Welcome to Stitches in Time, the podcast discussing Doctor Who the way it was meant to be watched, in chronological order, one clip at a time, starting at the Big Bang and ending with the heat death of the universe. I'm Becca, the Matrix archivist, and I spent the last 12 years of my life meticulously editing the entire televised Doctor Who universe into chronological order.
And I'm Mandy, and I am so pleased that we have our first sponsored episode. Today, our episode is brought to you by Zoom. Zoom, millions of people are dying, but we still found a way for you to work. Now, Zoom has very generously paid us $0 to talk about it in today's episode.
Yeah, Zoom is great. Zoom is the way that we record this podcast, in fact. It's a great product that is too expensive.
Zoom, we have to record the audio separately because it does a bad job.
And also joining us for our slander and libel case is Ben Paddon, once again.
Hello, it's me, Ben Paddon, they, them. I almost made the mistake of referring to Zoom as Boomer Discord, but that is, as we all know, Slack. So Zoom is just another one. And my personal feeling is if Zoom still exists in 5 to 10 years, I will be genuinely shocked. But I also thought the same thing about Skype, which has been on life support since Microsoft bought it from eBay. That is to say, eBay used to own Skype, and then they sold... I'm not saying that Microsoft went on eBay,
right.
Typed in...
I don't know how this purchase was made. Do you know this wasn't how it was made?
I think that's all how all corporations...
I think there was an auction and Microsoft did a buy it now for $275.
Do you even think they could auction for a lower price? They just weren't willing to wait on it?
Yeah. So it was buy it now, $275 OBO.
That's also like the only explanation that makes sense about how like Elon Musk got Twitter.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's the same thing. It's just all, hey, this is a message for tech bros. Stop putting your companies on eBay, please.
Don't do it. We've got to get our businesses out there. We've got to get them on all the social platforms. We've got to get them on Facebook. We've got to get them on Instagram. We've got to get them on Blue Sky. We've got to get them on eBay. Oh no, we've been bought by a tech billionaire somehow.
I thought you were intentionally mispronouncing billionaire to seem more folksy.
No, I just have a bad...
One of them tech billionaires.
One of them there tech billionaires.
I have another Zoom tagline. Zoom, if we could use something better, we would.
Zoom, because Discord is free, but we really rather you didn't.
Zoom, remember your trauma with every click.
This episode brought to you by Zoom. Zoom!
This episode brought to you by Zoom, maker of fine audio mixers for field recording and more. A different company named Zoom. This is the company that deals specifically with like the Zoom H4n or the Zoom F6, which I use in my work all the time because I do audio on set. That company's good at being a company called Zoom. The company that runs Zoom is bad company called Zoom.
No.
It should be pointed out, this episode is brought to you by Zoom. Zoom, when you try to tell your grandparents that they should increase the magnification in their web browser and you tell them to go to their Zoom settings, they're going to be confused now forever.
Mm-hmm. Yes. This podcast is brought to you by half of the slogan for Mazda.
Actually, it's 1/3. Isn't it? It's Zoom, Zoom, Zoom. No, the slogan is Zoom, Zoom, but the jingle was Zoom, Zoom, Zoom. I apologize. I would like to issue a formal retraction. This episode is not sponsored by Zoom.
I would like to be sponsored by 1/3 of Mazda. I don't need all of Mazda. I'll take 1/3 of that.
I'll take a Ma.
This podcast is sponsored by 1/3 of that song from Xenon the Sequel.
We're doing this because there's nothing to talk about.
We really are.
There's so little to talk about.
Yeah.
Like, this is nothing exemplifies the tedium of the premise of this podcast more than this. Becca, Mandy, Please tell the listeners what the fuck.
So we are talking about the 2020 lockdown special, Doctors Assemble, in which they are doing something, but they're doing it over a Zoom call. So it's mostly a way for them to make Zoom jokes.
Yep.
But it's still early enough in the pandemic that we haven't really gotten to the peak of Zoom jokes. Like nobody did the, oh, I have a filter on and I'm a man, not a cat.
I'm sorry,
the
Your
special
Honor.
really begged for, I'm a man, not a cat.
Yeah. Especially if, like, I don't know. I think that would be great if Sylvester McCoy had that for, as a survival reference.
Yeah. Instead, it's a bunch of people saying lines which I think are probably references to things.
Yep.
But it's nothing that I've seen yet. So it's all just, I'm sure I'll say this later and it will be important.
Yeah. Just about.
So that's it. Thanks for listening. So here's the thing. Here is the thing. Where's the thing?
Ben, where's the thing?
Oh, it's here. I've got it. Whoa.
Okay.
Whoa, here it is. So this isn't the full Doctors Assemble lockdown special. It is a minute of it, and not even a consecutive minute, just the bits where the 3D render is, I think, the 9th Doctor's TARDIS.
Yes, correct.
Right?
I know, fantastic. Ultimate chuckle vision.
Or the crankies.
Fair.
Oh dear, I'm starting to feel giddy.
What?
Yeah.
So, what you've done is you've taken something that was already a fan-wanky bit of, lockdown era fun, and you've sliced it up, and in doing so, you've made it incomprehensible. It cannot be. When Mandy told me this was the one we were doing, I sat down, I started watching the whole thing, and then Mandy, who was playing Metal Gear Solid behind me, watched me watching the whole thing and said, "No! We're not doing the whole thing, we're doing a minute of it." And I thought, well, okay, I'm sure there's 60 seconds in this thing that is set in a particular time period. And then Mandy puts it on, and it's non-consecutive. It is just the bits in the 9th Doctor's TARDIS.
In my defense,
There isn't one. Continue.
I watched the bit in Stitches in Time, and I was like, no one should have to watch more of this. So I'm going to save you and just show you the minute that we have to watch.
Do you have a Patreon?
Not anymore. Weirdly, as of the Doctors Assemble episode, her Patreon account is negative.
I was going to say, for this episode, I think you should issue refunds and apologies, because there's Doctor Who Lockdown already, by its very nature, is nothing. And I don't mean that disparagingly. It was 2020 was a very difficult time. Doing something that pulled all at the time, 13 Doctors plus the War Doctor together for a kind of a fun, little audio bit of fluff. That's fun. It's harmless. It's kind of like, it's like when Big Finish do something that adds net zero to the continuity. It's fine. And most of the sound-alikes sound really, really good.
They do.
But when you take what is already basically nothing and slice out 60 distinct, discrete seconds from it, and you play those bits in isolation, devoid of the rest of what I will charitably refer to as a narrative.
Okay, but you're forgetting, you're missing out on, we have it in a new context, and that is the context of the biblical calendar. So according to the timeline, we have just had the Doctor, Amy, and Rory were all stuck in the TARDIS because the TARDIS was inside of itself, and then they had to go out of the TARDIS, and they hit the wibbly lever, and I guess the wibbly lever started a Zoom call.
Yeah.
In a different TARDIS, elsewhere in time and space.
Yeah, and so that's what's happening. They were like, oh, it turns out the answer is we don't got this. Does somebody else who is also me got this? I mean, Jessica had that very nice statement about how to get through anxiety, you have to believe that even if I don't have it now, the person 20 minutes from now has it. And this is just an extended version of that, of maybe the version of me after I die and come back.
Yeah,
We'll
I
know
don't
what's
got
going
this,
on.
but maybe the person I will be in 900 years, maybe he's got this. Who knows?
So here's the so one of the things that I brought up on one of my more recent guest spots on what I guess is still a podcast. I raised the question of, well, if you're going through this chronologically, then you have to adjust the doctor numbering accordingly. And
Yes.
this episode is kind of the Rosetta Stone for that, because
This really fucks with it a lot.
and it's the order in which the rest of them appear in. So because they appear out of sequence, but they're also like, I think in these clips they're all already there, right? There isn't anyone who hasn't zoomed in yet. I think there's a couple near the end, at the beginning of the end.
Yeah, I think they're all there.
Giving you
I think they all appear in this
homework
clip.
now on your own podcast.
Yeah, I mean that's what this podcast is all about.
Yeah.
I believe that you'll find that we are missing Shooty. It's just
Yeah.
weird. And like Tennant didn't show up a second time. It's a little weird of them not to do that.
Shooty, we had already established, is like the third Doctor? The fourth Doctor?
Shooty is the fifth Doctor.
Shooty's the fifth Doctor. And the fifth Doctor is the sixth Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And the sixth Doctor is the seventh Doctor.
Uh-huh.
And this kind of puts most of the other pieces in the jigsaw puzzle. I think the only Doctor now that we have not seen is any of the Morbius Doctors and the Fugitive Doctor.
Well, yeah, so here's what I got is, because of the numbering system, we can only really refer to them by actor.
You have to.
So, but most of the actors in this are not doctors that have also played the Doctor.
Yeah, so who was real and who was getting an additional actor? Because I know clearly there are ones that are dead, and I have to assume that we didn't get a Ouija board for this, so they have a new actor. But I also am pretty sure that Eccleston didn't show up.
Right. No, so this is actually the only reason that I even consider this canon in Stiz in Time. The only reason it's part of it is because David Bradley is voicing the first Doctor, and he has appeared canonically on the show as the first Doctor. So
otherwise, is it nobody?
So otherwise, nobody else. Yeah. So now the Stitches in Time thing is officially, I believe, the 13th Doctor is Pete Walsh. The 14th Doctor is Jonathan Carley. The
Keep going.
15th Doctor is Chris Walker Thompson. The 16th Doctor is John Culshaw. The 17th Doctor is, and this is my favorite name, Wink Taylor.
Now, are we sure that they're supposed to be doctors? Because again, I don't have any context other than they hit a lever and they went through the weird TARDIS that did things. What if we're in a mirror universe?
Ooh.
Have we considered that possibility?
I haven't.
That's why they all have slightly different voices.
The other thing that I want to keep in mind is John Culshaw voices 3 separate versions of the Doctor in this one. Angus Villiers Stewart voices 2 incarnations of the Doctor. So there are...
As does Jonathan Carley.
As does Jonathan Carley. Oh, Jonathan Carley, who does he also do? Oh, he does the 12th
12
Doctor as well, yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got a couple of different points here. Some of these actors are multiple Doctors.
Right.
Which
like
will
David
also
Tennant.
come up again later for for Colin Baker's regeneration into Sylvester McCoy, or should I, as it can be more accurately described, Sylvester McCoy's regeneration into Sylvester McCoy, and then John Hurt's regeneration into Paul McGann, which again is Paul McGann's regeneration into Paul McGann.
Right.
Now, is everyone keeping track so far? I want all of the listeners to have there should be a spreadsheet. You should be keeping track of all of the... So I would not go as far as to say that actually all of these other actors are individually numbered doctors because they are playing previously established doctors. So the question I want to ask you is, are there any doctors in Stitches in Time for whom this is their debut appearance?
Yes, quite a few.
So those roles have now been originated by John Colshaw and Jonathan Carley, etc. And then later they were recast.
Yeah, this is the first appearance of. I'm not going to number them, but this is the first appearance of doctors who would later be played by Patrick Troughton, John Pertwee, John Hurt, and Christopher Eccleston.
Amazing. So I think it's fascinating that by this order the doctors do eventually get recast, probably because the actors who they cast here for the audio maybe didn't have as much on-screen experience, and they were like, well, we need to... it's like how they cast Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka in Ahsoka. It's kind of that kind of... And this is David Bradley's debut as the First Doctor. It
is not. We have seen him before.
Well, then I'll shut my entire mouth. Where did you see David Bradley before this?
In The Power of the Doctor.
Oh, yes. I forgotten that you did that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as far as we're concerned, some of the doctors are just a figment of Jodie Whittaker's imagination.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I haven't seen them as a doctor, but I've seen them as the person that lives in her head.
All right.
Accurate.
So, with everything that's happened so far in Stitches in Time, how do these moments tie into existing plot threads, and what new threads do they introduce to the ongoing narrative?
Well, we exited the TARDIS into the TARDIS because the TARDIS ate itself and lived inside of itself for a moment.
Yeah, we're all familiar with the concept of self-cess, sure.
Yeah, we hit the wibbly lever, started up the Zoom call, and all of these mirror universe versions of themselves came up, in which the mostly we get to see that the Tom Baker Doctor has lost all semblance of trying to be the good guy. There's no way that you can convince me that wasn't a supervillain portrayal.
He does cackle maniacally at one point for no reason.
Really does.
Yeah.
An information superhighway. I think that's rather good.
Because he says the phrase, an information superhighway.
Yeah. I really want to take some time, and this doesn't necessarily work for an audio podcast, but if anyone who wants to go through the lockdown and just the various icons, because no one is actually using their video, I assume, because they don't have a good signal, and so they kept freezing and are instead using various avatars, which I don't know who was putting up their avatar on Zoom, but they all have dedicated avatars. And the things that they have chosen were choices.
Wild.
Why is one of them the Mona Lisa?
Oh, that is a reference to City of Death, which we have seen, but we haven't seen the bit with the Mona Lisa, because obviously we're still in several thousand BC, so
we don't have a Mona Lisa yet.
Yeah. So maybe that's foreshadowing to the City of Death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as aft shadowing? Foreshadowing is obviously you are referring to something before it happens. Aft shadowing is alluding to something that has already happened.
Yeah.
And that everyone's already aware of.
Generally, human beings tend to call that a callback, but I like aft shadowing.
Aft shadowing, yeah.
There's also, so the Eighth Doctor one does look like it's an immemorial one, because it's just side by side like photos of TV movie Doctor and the lady in the TV movie. But it's the way that my granny tries to send me pictures, where she takes a picture of the picture. So it's a photo frame of the images, and they decided, this will be a good internet. That's what you put as your icon. Yeah.
I also, speaking of old people using it, I feel like the John Pertwee's face is absolutely insane in his avatar, but it very much reminds me of the way that like old people will kind of like look down at their phones from above, like not realizing that it's a horrible angle, and just it seems like he just took a picture of himself like that, and then yes,
it's badly lit.
There's also one of them is using one where it's just three guys, and I don't know who the three guys are. I didn't see a doctor among them. It's just three guys in like hats.
I believe that's the 11th Doctor with
the Beatles.
There's also the second Doctor with the Beatles.
Oh, that's the one. Yes, sorry.
There's also the 11th Doctor with, I think, Laurel and Hardy. Is that the name of those guys?
He's got to do something to keep himself amused.
Yeah, and the not first Doctor has, it looks like a passport photo, but he moved in the middle of it. And again, this is another one where you took a picture of a physical photo.
Right, yeah.
And not a scan. It is a picture of it.
That's great. There's Jodie Whittaker hiding in a closet from a Cyberman.
Yeah, that's as a nod to the Thasman shippers. And like, she's in that closet, but she'll get out of there soon.
Pertwee's icon, I'm pretty sure his eyes have been photoshopped to be even wider than they actually are.
Yeah, that's the sense I got. But, like, not photoshopped well. Like, it's either that or they just, like, really stretched his face out for no reason.
I think it's supposed to be one of those, like, the Mac photo filter things where it just, like, zoom and stretches because his nose is also, like, weirdly small.
Which is not something that anyone has ever said about Jon Pertwee before.
No. Hey, here's the messed up thing about this, is you're going to come back to this at some point in the future. At some point in the future, you're going to have to come back to discuss this from a different Doctor's perspective, from a different TARDIS at a different point in time.
And I presume that it will be two people who are much older talking about it and be like, there's nothing that we could do about that Zoom call. We could not make the signal any better so we could have the video.
Yeah. You know what? Sadly, because the random number generator hates me, the Doctors Assemble comes back really quite soon, and then again soon after that, too.
And then it's done?
Well, we had to keep getting those Zoom books. That $0 that they paid us.
Keep getting those sweet Zoom books.
I love that you blow through Doctors Assemble so close to each other, and yet Mandy has not yet had closure on Castrovalva. That's really the thing that amuses me.
Benjamin, it is coming up. It is coming up, and all of this stuff, it is like the kind of like tease before we get to the finale.
Mm-hmm.
So the end of season 1 of Stitches in Time is Castrovalva.
Maybe it has to be. I don't know. I was thinking about just doing seasons by like every year. We'll just like in May we'll just start a new season. But it's also possible that we just whatever episode we started the season with. We have to end the season with. So some seasons are gonna be like a couple months. Some seasons might be like 2 weeks. Some may never end. We might get to like season 6, and then it's just season 6 forever.
The rest of the show is all contained within season 6. 1,097 episodes.
Yeah,
all part of season 6.
So, to me, it makes sense to kind of do your seasons narratively. Like sometimes you have a longer story arc than other times. And Castrovalva, that's kind of been our story arc for this season of what is the castration vulva doing, and we've had nods to it this whole time, and so it's all going to come together. And I mean, it might continue on past that. I don't know the story beyond there. Like maybe they'll resolve the vulva, but who knows? They made a musical out of teeth, so who knows?
I really hope that there's a review for this on Apple Podcasts that just says, a Doctor Who podcast you can really sink your teeth into.
And if you're listening, you can write that review right now if you want to. And then we will read it on the air several months after you write it, because I'm bad at remembering to check on it.
Yeah.
We check on it, and then we also record these ahead of time. So by the time that we record something, when we release something,
but we do have, and this is very exciting, another listener question. This question comes to us from longtime fan of the show, Ben Paddon, who asked, how, if you keep doing this show for as many clips as you need to, how many clips are there and how many podcast episodes will you have?
Great question. Ben, thank you so much for writing in. Incredibly insightful question.
Yeah, very good question. And at the time, I made a joke. I was like, it would be so funny if this, like, maybe we're going to get to 2050. And because that's when the K9 series takes place. And then I consulted my spreadsheet and wrote some macros. And
Google has said you can't use Google Sheets anymore because they find what you are doing abhorrent. And in their words, against God, which I think is it's a Doctor Who spreadsheet. Like, I have Doctor Who spreadsheets, but apparently what you're doing is worse than the spreadsheet I'm using to determine exactly what percentage of each Doctor's stories is available on Blu-ray.
Right. Yeah, Google did reach out to me about that, and my response was, well, you better watch out, because I might just buy Google on eBay.
Yeah, they've just been training their AI on your spreadsheets, and now their AI has depression.
Oh, no. So, as of this recording, which is the latest episode we've seen is The Legend of Ruby Sunday and Empire of Death. Although, actually, technically, it's the Pyramids of Mars, Tales of the TARDIS. So as of now, the current number of clips is 12,048. Total. Cool. Which, since we started this podcast in May of this year, 2024, it's about 25 years of this podcast.
12,048 or 1,248?
Sorry, 1,248. I meant to say 1,248.
Yeah, because I did the math on 12,048, and that would take you slightly under 34 years to do the whole thing.
1,248 clips. So sorry. So...
Wait, no, I was dividing by the number of days. If you did an episode a day... If you did an episode a day right now with 1,248, it would take you 3.5 years to do this.
I did a peek behind the curtain of the production of this show when it was initially launched, and Becca was like, yeah, I'm thinking we'll do like 3 episodes a week. Terrible, and I was like, oh, I'll die. And granted, yes, we would get through it much sooner, but I think I might die.
Yeah, I think this is better. I imagine that we'll do this for a couple of years, like 3 or 4 years, catch all the way up, and then just like let the release schedule play out for the next couple decades.
We're going to do a Nikocado Avocado thing where we just like record a bunch of stuff and like, no, we've been doing this the whole time in the background.
Right. And again, this is assuming that no new Doctor Who will ever air, which... You
have to cancel the show if we want to be free.
Yeah.
I mean, it could happen. It could happen. We haven't got final word on whether Disney Plus have commissioned a 3rd season yet.
True. But I mean, at the very least, there will be...
blood.
This Christmas episode this year, and
the war between some ham and some cheese.
Mm.
The war between some ham and some cheese. The spin-off they're doing. It's a cookery show.
Oh,
Toby's going to be in it.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is supposed... This is really what it felt like to watch that special. The lockdown special. It was a lot of people just saying words. Like, I don't know what those words mean. And then somebody else would say something that you would think was kind of in relation to it. And it wasn't in any way.
Yeah. The thing about lockdown is Doctor Who, the lockdown, the Doctors Assemble, is it is fun but frivolous and wholly unnecessary. It was written by James Goss, who is a writer at Big Finish, and it does have a couple of Big Finish stalwarts like Jonathan Carley and David Bradley, John Coleshaw, Jacob Dudman. Justin's nobody. Jacob Dudman and Justin Nobody.
Justin Nobody.
Yeah, like these are people, and I'm sure
Who
a couple of
voices
other
the
names.
416th Doctor.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, frankly, I'm really not looking forward to talking about this episode 2 more times.
At least 2 more times.
In the next...
Does
yes. Oh, it's going to be far more than 2 more times.
Yeah.
It's just that there are 2 more times that are... Let me... All right, listeners.
Consult the master document.
The master document. So this is episode 27 that we're recording now of the podcast. We're also going to talk about Doctors Assemble in episode 34.
Mm-hmm.
And episode something else.
Episodes 35 through 49.
Oh my god, no, it's 30. Oh god, it's 32 and 34 are the ones.
Amazing. Good God.
They just had to keep doing these calls, which makes sense as someone who has done Zoom calls for work. You have the meeting and you spend most of the time rambling, and then it's like, whenever you try to get a complicated thing, which is the reason why you scheduled the meeting to go over this stuff, and like, well, we'll just circle back on that. We'll table this and we'll hit that one afterward. And then you don't, and then you have to schedule another one 2 days later to go over the same things. This was really the time of year that I was having a lot of meetings about meetings. About like, oh, we should really schedule a meeting with these people so that we can go over this stuff. And it's like, well, they're over there. Can I just ask them that? And like, no, we should really schedule a meeting with them. Like, I could message them. No, let's do a meeting.
Terrible. This is like the Avengers Endgame of Doctor Who, where it's just like we have to have all of these characters, and they all have to have a little quip, a little line in there.
Sorry, I'm so sorry, but what?
I stopped the invasion.
Oh, blimey.
Really? My dear chap, look, I've not even finished talking to Geneva.
Do they have Colin Baker saying on your 6?
And they just have a point where they just pivot to all of the women. They just pivot to the one woman they have.
Jodie and the fugitive doctor, Joe Martin and Jodie Whittaker just standing there, and it looks more like that one shot in Civil War where it's like they're running across an airport tarmac like they're late for their plane. Mandy, so knowing that you have 2 more episodes in the imminent future where you will be discussing the Doctors Assemble again, does Becca give you PTO?
I am an independent contractor.
Oh, that's awful.
I don't give her PTO, but I do give her PTSD.
Paid PTSD.
I am curious, besides us, if anyone has watched this after 2020, because it seems like the big thing that, like, while you're in the middle of it, Zoom jokes are the funniest thing. And
yeah.
I'm saying this fully knowing I kicked off this podcast with a bunch of Zoom jokes. So I know I also am aware that they're not really funny anymore. We've gone past that moment. True. So I want to know, has anyone watched this afterward?
I can't imagine they have. Here's the thing, though. If you've ever gone to Gallifrey 1, there is a comedy troupe called the Idiot's Lantern. I have some friends who are part of that group. They do a sketch comedy show every year. They write material about recent Doctor Who, about old Doctor Who. They try to, they do some stuff. They've had some great stuff. They did this recently, within the last couple of years.
Wait, really?
They did a Doctor's Zoom call, but they had it set at the end of I don't know if you've seen this one yet in this edit, but it's the Day of the Doctor, which was the 50th anniversary special that aired on the BBC Order in 2013.
I don't know what that is.
They did that, and they had a couple of Zoom jokes, like they had the War Doctor coming in and they were muted and their microphone wasn't working, and
Ben, we've been going through billions of years at this point. We've had so many 50th anniversary specials by now. They're not really worth kind of memorializing. If we had to memorialize every 50th anniversary that we got.
Do you know what's messed up is with the number of episodes you're doing, this podcast will have a 10th and 20th anniversary episode. And possibly a 30th.
Possibly more.
One of the things you're going to have to till death us do Blart this and designate someone to kind of, like a designated survivor to step in should one or both of you kick the dead.
Yeah.
You think it's you for both of us?
Uh-oh. Do you
I think it's you, certainly you for Mandy, Ben, because I think that's just part of wasn't that part of the like legal certificate that you signed when you got married?
Yeah.
that there's going to be a podcast. It hasn't happened yet. I actually do have a question for you, and is the premiere profile for your Reddit on an easily accessible drive, so that if the worst were to happen, I can continue your grand work?
It is.
Keeping in mind that you will probably outlive me.
Becca will outlive us all.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You can't die until...
At the end, there will be
Time is
nothing, and at the end, there will be Becca.
Yeah.
That's harrowing thought. I don't want to live that long.
It's a herring thought, in that it's a little fishy that I'm bringing it up right now.
Yeah.
Suspicious. Or it's a red herring thought.
It's a red herring.
It's there to distract you from the fact that the assassin I hired is in your apartment now.
I say that Doctors Assemble is going to be coming up, but actually, it might be that next episode, this just turns into a true crime murder podcast about who killed Becca.
I just admitted to hiring the assassin on the... Here's the thing.
Yeah, so Netflix can only stretch this to like 3 episodes.
Sure. But I feel like, Ben, if you take over as the host of this podcast, you can really like manipulate the investigation and sort of plant, red herrings.
Here's the thing. I've said all of these things, none of which have anything to do with Doctor Who. If in the time between this episode releasing and the next one, I guess, if something happens and you get murdered, I've implicated myself in a thing. Like, there's audio recording of me going, I hired an assassin. Like, I didn't, and I wouldn't, and I won't. And I cannot afford an assassin. I'm not saying I've looked up prices for assassins. I'm not saying that I have, like, access to a database of, like, going rates. But I would have.
Ben,
I have to.
My love. Anything you say, canon will be held against you in a court of law. Anything you say, canon will be held against you in a court of law.
I don't earn enough money to hire an assassin.
You have a right to an attorney.
Mandy, you're going to represent me. It's fine.
No, I know those laws. We're married. I don't have to say shit. You cannot ask me.
Please?
Oh, they said please. Now you have
Say
to.
please.
That was also in the marriage contract.
Yeah, my vows were just please, 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 please. Mandy, please, please. Mandy, please, Mandy.
And then you did a Doctor Who quote.
Which is why I thought that was so weird that your ceremony lasted 4 days. But eventually she just gave in, huh?
Yeah. It's like a Donna Noble trying to ask Lance at the place to propose. You also haven't got to that, but yeah, that won't.
No, we won't. But that will be its own episode. Just that scene.
Perfect. Well, what a baffling podcast you have. At least Star Wars Minute makes sense.
Does it though?
A little bit, like conceptually. Let's watch 60 seconds of Star Wars and just talk about that. This is let's watch 60 seconds non-consecutively of a YouTube special that was put out to boost morale during one of the worst times in recent history that no one remembers anymore, and that when devoid of that
was your morale not boosted watching this?
No. I watched it and I went, all right,
I was hoping someone was.
No. I'm sure someone got a lot out of it, but I'm not that someone. I think it was mostly John Coleshaw.
You know what? I know that somewhere out there that Doctors Assemble is somebody's favorite, like, Doctor Who thing.
And I'm
Just-
going to shove that nerd in a locker.
Yeah, I'll help you. But
There's enough Doctor Who that every Doctor Who thing is there's someone out there who thinks Fear Her is the best thing ever committed to film.
Yeah.
Which joke's on them because it was shot on digital video.
And that and that person is me. Just kidding. But I really like the bit where he opens the TARDIS door and he's stuck at the dumpsters. That moment, I think, is the greatest moment of Doctor Who. And
it has that great quote
that
about, warp drives and refractors and so forth. The other thing you need is a hand to hold. Like, that's a great line. Like, Fear Her gives us...
I have that quote hanging in my apartment.
Yeah, a very good quote and a very good joke, and also voiceover provided by someone who has been fired from their job at the BBC, and they've pulled the episode off of the BBC iPlayer because of allegations, and they're redubbing it, and then we'll be putting it back up.
Is that the episode with the Doodle Bob girl?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Wait, what? Tell me more, Ben.
I don't know the specifics, but apparently the guy who was the voiceover during the Olympics event, who's like, it's about love, and it's about that guy. Real newscaster who apparently has done some shit. I don't know anything further than that, but BBC pulled the episode off of the iPlayer. They're going to re-record that voiceover with literally anybody else. They might just use me now saying those bits and drop it in, and then it will go back up on the iPlayer and it'll be fine.
Hey BBC, if you take Ben's lines, then we can call it even for all of the stuff that we're doing with your show.
Mm-hmm.
If they take the lines, I'm asking Gally to let me be a special guest.
Yeah.
Boom. I was in Fear Her 18 years after it was made.
That's the dream.
That really is the dream.
Ben, can you remind people where you can be found on the internet and also what all of the great things you're working on?
Yeah, I'm available online. My cell phone number is 323-84... No. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm at benpaddon.net. I'm on Threads and Instagram is at Ben Paddon. I'm on TikTok as Ben Paddon. I am on X. Who gives a shit? I stream occasionally. I've been doing a little bit more streaming lately. Twitch.tv/PortCenter, like Sports Center, but without the first S at the front. I did a big stream. There was a new console port of Worms Armageddon that came out on September 26th, so I did a stream pretty much all day for that. Mandy and I, at time of recording...
Were you involved in that
yes,
at all?
Actually, I was a consultant on that.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Mandy and I recently streamed with some friends Lord of the Rings Return to Moria. And as someone who doesn't really care about Lord of the Rings, I find that game deeply enjoyable.
And as someone who cares a lot about Lord of the Rings, but in a fundamentally wrong way, similar to how I feel about Doctor Who. It was a great time. It was a great assortment of people. It's definitely very much like a survival game where you have to eat every 3 minutes and do all this stuff. And like, I feel like we spent most of our time napping because we kept, the game had this weird mechanic where you can go to sleep, but you don't set what time you wake up. So it was like, oh, well, it's nighttime, so we should go up. And then we would wake up in the afternoon.
Yes, good stuff.
Okay, we have a little bit of time to go exploring, and then we gotta head back.
Yeah, it's like, imagine Mines of Moria is an unemployment simulator in many ways. Because you go to sleep whenever, you wake up in the middle of the afternoon, you putz around and do some bullshit, and then you go back to bed. It's great. And I guess the other thing I want to plug, I mention it on the show all the time, but there's a sci-fi comedy audio drama podcast called Jump Leads. We did season 1 last year. We're currently in production on season 2. It is Doctor Who meets Red Dwarf by way of Sliders. If you like sci-fi, if you like comedy, if you like British things, I wrote it. I play one of the characters, and Mandy and I are writing an episode for season 2. And she also helped break the season finale, which was like hugely important.
I was also a story editor on the first season.
You script edited for the first season and for the second season.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And Becca might be doing music for season 2.
I might be.
Please.
Might be. Please, Becca. Please. Becca.
Ben, I will
Becca,
only,
please.
I will only do music for season 2 if you call off your assassin right now.
Hang on 1 second. 1 second. 1 minute. Okay, give me a second. Sorry. Actually, let me take my headphones off. 1 sec.
Sure. Hang on, there's somebody at the door.
Hi. How you doing? Hi. Yeah, go faster. Kill her now. Kill her quickly.
Oh no!
Uh.
I'm just alone watching this.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I've definitely called off the assassins.
I don't think we're going to see Becca anymore.
Where'd Becca go? What a shock! Oh!
Well, Ben, I guess it's time to take the reins. You're the new Matrix archivist.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to Stitches in Time, a Doctor Who podcast. Mandy, where can people find you on the media's social?
Oh, we never asked me that. Don't find me.
I'm gonna.
You can find me at nelnet.com.
And what's the email address for the podcast?
It is customer service at kfc.com.
Cool. Brilliant. All right. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. We're gonna have the
if you send a note, you can get $5 off a double down, which they're still selling
20 years ago. Thanks for listening to Stitches in Time, a Doctor Who podcast. If you like what we do, maybe reconsider your life choices up to this point. Maybe change your priorities. There's so much to do out there. Just step outside and take in this wide, beautiful world of ours. You can also find the podcast on YouTube. Check out our YouTube channel.
And thank you again to Zoom for bringing this episode to us, for bringing the concept of the lockdown special and how we make this podcast. My life was better before I knew you. Zoom!
Zoom, we engineered the pandemic to make money. Zoom, a subsidiary of the Umbrella Corporation. Zoom, as featured in the Doctor Who episode Praxeus. Zoom, as featured in the Doctor Who episode The Pyramid at the End of the World. Zoom, we dissolved a guy in a lab. Ooh. Business rates start at just $45 a month.
All right, bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Zoom, you know that bit in Trial of a Time Lord where Syl wants to put his boss's brain inside Perry's head? That was kind of fucked up, right? Anyway, you need us. You need us.
New doctor, new phone. Who dis? Whoa.
I went to see a play. I actually have seen 2 plays since last recording session. I went to see Cyrano de Bergerac.
It's been 2 days.
I know.
2 plays in 2 days.
2 plays in 2 days, baby.
It's almost like you like plays or something.
I know, I'm a real play slut. I saw Cyrano de Bergerac at the Pasadena Playhouse, and the guy who plays Cyrano played one of Richard Nixon's Secret Service agents in Doctor Who.
No.
Yeah. And he was very good.
What's a hashtag?
Are you joking?
Oh,
So, what do we do?
I'm Becca, the Matrix Archivist, and I spent the last 12 years of my life meticulously editing I have a plane. Hang on. I mean,
I've spent the last 12 years of my life meticulously editing a plane.
Meticulously flying a plane. Help. I just don't know how to land.
We're almost out of fuel.
Young man, what are you doing in my TARDIS, eh? And what is the meaning of that outfit?
I just wanted to fix an extra button onto your console.
I'd implied that you had died, and I was gonna do the outgoing blurb that you read over the end credit music. I was trying to bullshit it off the top of my head, and I couldn't remember what most of it was.
That's even better.
Yeah.